Hey everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. My guest today is Sonya Looney. I have not talked to her in about 4 years, so I don't know what the heck she's been up to, but we're going to find out. She is one of the contributors to the Ultimate Weight Loss Bundle, and I'm so excited to hear what her contribution is. Please welcome her to the show. How are you doing?
I've been great. Thanks for having me, and thanks to everyone for watching.
Yeah, so tell, in case people don't know who you are, why don't you tell us?
Sure. So I do a number of things, but I'm mainly known for being an ultra endurance professional mountain biker. So I became world champion in 24-hour mountain bike racing after I changed my diet in 2015. And that means I raced my bike for 24 hours straight. Also a podcast host, which is where you and I met, and I'm a health coach and a rider.
Well, wait a minute. How do you ride your bike for 24 hours? How do you sleep? How do you pee? How do you eat?
Well, you don't sleep, number one. Peeing, you pee as you need to pee, and eating, you eat while you're moving. So you stop as little as possible, and whoever slows down the least is who wins the race.
Wait, so you actually can get off the bike and go to the bathroom during this?
You can, yeah. You just lose time. Every time you stop, you lose time.
Where are you riding in the dark?
This was actually in California, but they have it in every like they move it all around the world. So they have it in New Zealand, they have it in Italy, they move it all over the place. So the year I won, it was in California.
That is amazing. Do you still do these 24-hour races?
I mostly do multi-day races, so 7 to 10 day mountain bike stage races around the world, and also single day 100-mile mountain bike races. I'll tell you what, a lot of people say like, oh, does your diet make it harder or easier to do these events? And I actually got faster after I changed my diet. And that wasn't even the reason that I changed my diet. So treating your body well makes you go faster too.
That happened to Dotsie Boych too, right? When she changed her diet, you ride faster. So tell us why you did change your diet and when.
Yeah, so I changed my diet in 2013, and it was after watching the Forks Over Knives documentary. And it was primarily from a health motivated perspective, because everyone in my family, as they got older, they had got high blood pressure, they're getting strokes, they're getting heart disease. And I thought that just is what happened to you whenever you got older. And then I learned that this is actually not the case. It's the foods that we eat that are causing this in a lot of cases. So I changed my diet because of that. I wasn't expecting to see an improvement in athletic performance. And in fact, I was worried about what would happen to me. I was a professional mountain biker. What's going to happen if I stop eating meat and dairy? And as I mentioned, I actually got faster, which wasn't what I was expecting. And I got healthier. So yeah, it's been almost 10 years.
How much faster did you get?
I went from trying to get on the podium to winning most of the races that I did.
That's pretty cool. Has anyone taken notice of this? And do they notice that it is your diet? Has anybody said anything or?
Not until I started telling people that my diet is a huge contributing factor to this. In fact, I didn't tell anybody that I changed my diet for a long time because I was really worried that people would feel that I was judging them for what they were doing. But then I realized this is such an important part of my life that I need to tell people that this is what I'm doing. And I haven't had one negative comment about it. In fact, I've just had people curious about how they can be healthier and get stronger too.
Do you have to eat differently as a plant-based athlete than, say, the rest of us?
I would say a little bit, but not dramatically different. You just have to eat more. So I might be eating more calorie dense, items, more on the nuts and seeds spectrum, eating more higher proportions of things. But generally, my diet isn't that different than anybody else's. It's just the quantity that I eat and the frequency is probably a lot more.
Wow. What do you estimate? I mean, does it matter do you train every day, even if you're not in a race?
Yeah, I train 6 days a week. In fact, right now I'm about 37 weeks pregnant and I still train 6 days a week.
Wow. So how much do you have to eat? Like, what do you estimate, like how many calories you eat a day?
Whenever I'm not pregnant or breastfeeding, I eat about 3,000 calories a day. Otherwise, I'm eating about 4,000 calories a day.
Wow. That's like more than twice as I can't imagine what it is. Cause I'm sure that I eat less than 2,000. I've never tracked it, but I'm pretty sure I eat less than 2,000.
Yeah, well, that's a great thing about eating a plant-based diet is that, like, even before I changed my diet, I would try to restrict my diet because weight loss is part of performance or just maintaining a healthy competition weight, I guess. And I would try to restrict. I would be doing all these things, like trying to get to a performance weight. And after I changed my diet, it's just not something that I think about. It's not something I worry about. My weight stays a very steady number. There's no fluctuations. and I stay at a really good performance weight for myself. Whereas before it was a struggle. I was always trying to figure out a way to hack the system and lose a few pounds before this race. And it's just such a freeing thing to not ever have to really worry about that.
Have you inspired any of your athlete friends to change their diet?
Yeah, actually, a lot of athletes have changed their diet over the years. And if anybody's interested in how to be a plant-based athlete, I recommend picking up the book, The Plant-Based Athlete by Robert Cheek and Matt Frazier. And I'm actually featured in that book as well. But an interesting one was a really good friend of mine, and he was a really fast pro mountain biker, super fit, but I learned that he had high blood pressure. And nobody would ever assume this guy who was like in his early 30s, winning races around the world, but he had high blood pressure. So he ended up changing his diet and dropped his blood pressure to a really healthy level. And he's been eating this way for probably 8 years. And now he lives in Japan, and he's been telling people how to do that too.
That's awesome. So tell us about your podcast. When did you start it, and what mostly do you talk about?
Yeah, so my podcast is called The Sonya Looney Show, and AJ's been a guest, and along with a lot of other really great plant-based doctors, athletes, movers and shakers. But it's about how to live a high-performance life. So it's about mindset and psychology, it's about nutrition, and it's about inspiring stories about people doing cool things. And I started it, it's been almost 5 years, and it's been a weekly show. And I initially started it because I thought, I know all these cool people telling cool stories, and ultimately I get a lot of value out of podcasts. So if I can get to meet and talk to these people and bring their information forward to my community, then other people can make their lives better too. So I've really enjoyed doing the podcast and the growth that I've had to experience as a person by doing that too.
Yeah, it's fun. Once a week. I would love to do once a week. I'm doing 5 times a day.
Good thing you have all that energy, AJ.
Absolutely. I think partly it's my diet. Hey, so tell us about the Ultimate Weight Loss Bundle. What is your offering in it?
My offering is a cookbook. It's a digital cookbook called the Plant Powered Academy. And I created it a few years ago because people were coming to me and they said, I really want to eat a healthy diet as an athlete, but I also want to have something that's easy to cook because I don't like cooking. I don't have time to cook. I want something that's going to taste good, but I also want something where I'm not going to have to compromise my performance. Because sometimes if you're eating, too many of these super high fiber vegetables, it can be really hard if you're an athlete. So I created this cookbook to make it easy for people, to make it tasty for people, make it super healthy for people, and also as like a gateway, because a lot of people that get this cookbook actually don't eat plant-based, and this is the first time they've ever tried something plant-based. Because how tasty it is and because of how easy it is, they started exploring other things, and a lot of people actually changed their diet because of the cookbook. So it's a really great way to get started, and it has lots of super healthy, nutrient dense, but also recipes that aren't going to make you gain weight, and recipes where you're going to feel full and satisfied and also be able to perform after you eat them.
That's great. Tell us a little bit like what you eat in a day.
Well, I eat steel cut oats for breakfast every morning. And you can dress up your oats any way that you like. And actually my 2-year-old son, that's his favorite thing, with pear cream, which is actually a Brenda Davis recipe. And it's just pears and cashews and vanilla extract. A lot of times we want sweet things. Lots of people love sweet things, but there's lots of ways to make them super healthy and nutrient dense. So I'll start with that. And then before I train, I usually have some sort of like nut butter and bread combination and get on my bike and go train. And then after my ride, I'll eat a meal. Most of my meals are pretty simple, but they usually consist of a whole grain, a bunch of vegetables, and a bean or a legume or a tofu or a tempeh. Occasionally I'll do a veggie meat, I like the Very Good Butchers, but I'll just do something like that occasionally. But mostly I eat a whole foods plant-based diet. I make my own sauces, and I don't eat like a really complex diet.
Yeah. Does your family eat the same way?
Yeah. So my husband is the one who introduced me to this form of eating. I met him at a bike race in 2012, and he was eating that way. And yeah, my son, I mentioned, he's 2 years old. He's turning 2 in a few weeks, but he's never had an animal product. I've had 2 entirely plant-based pregnancies. People ask me like, do you crave meat when you're pregnant, or did you change your diet when you're pregnant? And really, like in pregnancy, a lot of the foods that they tell you to avoid are foods that are animal products. So I've had super healthy pregnancies, and I felt really good. And I haven't had any of the swelling, like none of the things that happen. I haven't had to worry about gestational diabetes, none of those things.
Yeah, it's funny because like they'll tell you not to eat fish when you're pregnant. So I'm thinking, well, or not to drink when you're pregnant. So why have it when you're not, right?
Yeah, like it's because of that you want, ultimate health for your kids. So why wouldn't you do that for yourself?
Well, I agree. Does your husband still race too?
He does, yeah. Yeah, we haven't raced because of the pandemic. And we're up in Canada where there's been some stricter rules, but basically we've grown our family. So I had my son March 2020, which was like right when everything started locking down. And then because it wasn't looking like there's going to be any races where we'd be able to leave the country this summer, we decided, okay, well, if we're going to have two, let's have two. So I'm really excited to return to racing this summer.
Wait, have two kids?
Two kids, yeah. So my second baby is due in 3 weeks.
Oh, I didn't even know. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Wait, so they might, when's your first son born?
He was born March 15th, and my due date for my second kid is March 18th. So they'll be like exactly 2 years apart.
Wow, that's exciting. Cool.
Yeah, and it's been really fun to share just like healthy eating with like everyone's like, oh, kids don't like vegetables, and it's like, well, if you're feeding your kid refined foods all the time and you're not even giving them a chance to like vegetables, and then how you talk about the food that you eat, then they're probably not going to like it. So it's been really an interesting and fun experiment, just to see how he enjoys eating these different foods. And he sees me just eating greens straight out of a package, because that's how I don't like making salad. I just eat like arugula or like super greens out of a package. And he'll do the same thing because that's just what he's used to seeing. So what they see, they mimic. And so if you want your kids to eat healthy, you need to eat healthy too.
I agree. I had no idea you were with child.
Yeah, a few more weeks.
That's amazing. Well, I guess, if you can't race during a pandemic, you may as well do that.
That's right.
Have you ever raced against your husband? Or I'm not familiar with your sport. So is it men and women competing together?
Well, your placing is not against men, but some of the races are mass starts. Some of the races, men and women have their own separate starts. But yeah, my husband and I have raced against each other quite a bit, but he's not keeping up.
Wait, so you can actually beat him?
Oh yeah. I'll beat him by like an hour at a 100-mile race.
Oh my goodness. So to train, do you train outdoors? Because isn't it pretty snowy in Canada for a lot of
yeah, I mean, it depends. Most of the time I'm training outdoors, but I do train indoors sometimes. And it just depends. Indoor training is super efficient, but outdoor training is a lot more fun.
When you're training indoors, are you like on a spin bike, or what kind of bike do you use inside for training?
Yeah, so you actually take your own bike. I have my own bike, and then there's different types. It's called a trainer, what you put your bike on. So you can actually take your physical bike and you set it, you take the back wheel off, and it has its own cassette or like cogs on the back. So you just ride your bike. And then there's all these different like training programs you can do. There's like this gamified version that you can do where you're like actually in a video game on your bike, if you like that kind of thing. So yeah, it's a lot of different opportunities if you like indoor training. And as like a new mom, especially when I have had a newborn and a baby, and it's hard to get away for longer periods of time, indoor training is a really great way to do that too.
I just can't imagine staying awake for 24 hours while riding a bicycle.
Yeah, it's all relative. I mean, your perception of time changes whenever you're doing that. Like I can still barely imagine doing that, and I've done it several times at this point. But yeah, you just break it down into smaller chunks of time, into smaller little goals, just like you would with anything else. So like if you're taking on a big challenge, you're not going to think of the whole challenge all at once. You're going to think, what do I need to do to get to the next milestone? And you do the same thing in a long race.
How many people participate in a race like that?
It depends on where the event is, but usually like there's hundreds or thousands. It just really depends.
Wow, that is amazing. Okay, what do I want to ask you next? I'm curious, do people ever not finish the race?
Yeah, I mean, actually in 24-hour racing, this is something that is kind of funny, but not funny. People go blind temporarily during these races. So they'll be riding and then they just won't be able to see anymore. So they have to quit the race because they go blind, but they get their sight back later. People have gastrointestinal issues. That's probably the main reason why people stop these races, or they just give up because it's mentally difficult. And with endurance racing, it's very physical, but it's also very mental, and it's being able to push through whenever you want to give up.
Wow. Have you ever quit a race?
Just once. And I was actually so physically ill that I was either quit the race or end up in the hospital. So that I had to quit the race, and I don't regret that decision.
But not all your races are those 24-hour races, right?
No, but most of them are I would say equally difficult. It's just difficult in a different way. So most of them are like a 7-day race where you're racing your bike 50 to 100 miles a day off road. across the country or across a region, and the conditions are usually pretty difficult. So yeah, they're just different in different ways, but I really enjoy challenges because it makes you feel alive and you feel these like range of emotions that you wouldn't just feel on a day-to-day basis. You need to, like, when you put yourself out there, whether you're an athlete or whatever other challenges you're taking, you're going to feel these range of emotions, and then that makes you have a different perspective in your daily life, and I think it makes you a better person.
I spend an hour a day and I'm done. And I cannot imagine like doing that 23 more times in a row outdoors and at night.
Well, I think it'd be different if you were outside because there's a adventure aspect that comes into it too, and it's something you build up to. You don't just all of a sudden say, "I'm going to go ride my bike for." Well, some people do, I guess, but most people don't say, "I'm just going to go ride my bike for 24 hours."
How many hours a day do you train on a normal basis?
It really depends on the type of training and like where I'm at, but I train usually 10 to 15 hours a week.
Well, that's not too much, really.
No, I mean it's enough where you're paying attention to like lots of different things and it's a time commitment, but it just depends on your body. Like some people will train 20 hours a week. It depends on the intensity level that you're doing. The answer is it depends.
That's interesting. So Jerry has a great question. What race are you most proud of?
I am most proud of a race called the Yak Attack. It's a 10-day mountain bike stage race across the Himalaya in Nepal. It's the highest mountain bike stage race, it's the highest mountain bike stage race in the world. So I first did it in 2012, and no woman had ever done this race before. It's pretty remote, and you're not 100% on your own. There's a little bit of support, but you're very much on your own. And you actually have to design this contraption because you have to hike your bike over 18,000 feet. And at the time when they were holding the race, at that time, they were doing it at a time where you had to hike through the snow. So you were hiking through the snow with your bike on your back over 18,000 feet. I'd never done anything like that before in my entire life. And doing a race like that just showed me that I was so much more capable than I ever could have imagined. It opened my view of what else is possible, and getting to go to Nepal and seeing a completely different world and a different place from what I knew, it just made me want to see what else was out there in the world. And after that, I dedicated my career to racing. I've raced in more than 25 countries now because I wanted to see what else was out there and also what else I was capable of.
So other countries are doing this. I've honestly never heard of this sport. Like, is it a spectator sport? Because I can't imagine people staying 24
Not
hours.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how do you know where to go? Like, are there people like, I don't know, crew or somebody to help you?
It's kind of like running. Like there's courses are marked, so you know where to go. There are races that are self-supported where you have a GPS file that you follow. So there is some navigation involved, but usually it's just like a trail running race. Like you just follow the course markers and hopefully you don't get lost.
How long can you do this for? Like, who is the oldest person doing this sport?
At the professional level, I think I can do this into my mid 40s because there are women. I'm 38 right now, and there's a lot of women who are in their early to mid 40s who are still doing really, really well. I think a lot of it is that our minds go first because it is a really large commitment. Like 10 to 15 hours a week doesn't sound like very much, but if you're doing it at a high performance level, it's all encompassing in your life. So it is a lot. It's a big commitment. So I think that goes before the body goes. I also think treating your body right, like eating plant-based, I think will prolong my career because I have way less injuries, way less inflammation. And I think it keeps your body younger for longer too.
I'm looking at the bundle now. What's the name of your book? Because I'd like to pull it up and talk about it.
It's called the Plant Powered Academy Cookbook.
Okay. Oh, there it is. It's because I was looking under your name. That's why. Plant Powered. A lot of things are called plant powered in this bundle, though.
Oh, wow.
No, really. Oh, yeah.
People should definitely check out this bundle. Like, I'm amazed at all the amazing products and offerings from everybody. And I can't believe how like inexpensive it is for what you get. It's just such an amazing thing. And I'm so glad to be a part of it. And I'm really thankful.
Oh, thank you for joining us. As my mom would say, such a deal. I mean, really, it is. Like today, when I was out doing errands, I was listening to Andrew Mellon, who has a course called BS on Busy, and I was listening to that in the car. So it's very cool. Oh, I'm looking at that's a very beautiful cover picture on your thing. It's got broccoli and it's got some black sesame seeds. Oh, look at you. Cool. I'm pulling it up. Got some great things in there. You got pancakes and a tofu scramble. and all kinds of nice
The
things.
veggie burger is one of the most popular in that cookbook, and the Asian noodle bowl.
Oh, let me look at that. And I'm not going to tell the rest. Oh, the picture is beautiful. Oh yeah, the veggie burgers look perfect. I could see why. Wow, I love it. That is very cool. Are your 2-year-old's not old enough to ride a bike yet, or is he?
Not really. They have those little like run bikes, and he kind of walks around on the bike, but he's excited about bikes. Anytime he sees a bike, anyone riding a bike, he goes, "Mom, I ride bike."
That is very, very cool. Very cool. So did you eat before? Because if you were always an athlete, I'm guessing that you probably ate a pretty good diet even before going plant-based.
I did. I mean, it really depends. Like some athletes will just, they think they can, and this is just in general for anybody. If you exercise, you think I can just eat whatever I want because I'm burning calories. And I think AJ, you said this, you can't outrun your mouth. And a lot of people think, well, if I just exercise more, then I can eat as many calories or it'll just erase these foods that I'm eating. And that's not the case. Like what you put in your body actually impacts your health and performance. And I'll tell you, like I can train 20 hours in a week. And even if if I start eating processed vegan foods and I'm training 20 hours a week, I can still gain weight. So if you're eating unhealthy foods or just, you can still gain weight no matter how much you're exercising.
Yep, that's true. Do any of the people in your sport eat poorly and just think that the exercise is enough?
Oh yeah. And some people aren't prone to weight gain, so they think that they're super healthy just because physically they look like they're in shape. But as people listening or watching might know, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're healthy if you look healthy from the outside.
Yeah. How did you even hear of this? I've honestly never heard of this sport. Like,
Mountain biking?
yeah, I mean, I've heard of mountain biking, but not as a competition. Do you know what I mean? I've heard of mountain biking, of course.
It's a good question. I actually got into it kind of like how you found cycling through spin class. So I started running marathons when I was at the end of high school because I just was interested in running marathons. And I didn't know how to train properly because I was just doing it on my own for fun. So I kept getting injured and I went to spin class at the gym, and then some guys at my work invited me to go mountain biking, and I didn't know what it was, but I knew that we had a bike at my parents' house. So I said, sure, I'll go. And being open to curiosity, that's so important, because if I wasn't curious about what is mountain biking, I would have a completely different life. And I'm sure that lots of people watching and listening, if they weren't curious about something, they wouldn't have been led to something that they're really proud of. So I just went with these guys mountain biking, and then they noticed that I was pretty fit because of my running, and just I was good at mountain biking. So they told me I should do a race, and I was like, okay. They're like, the race is in 2 weeks. So I said, okay, yeah, sure, I'll go. So I went and did a race, and I loved it, and then I was all in, and that was in 2003.
Well, you are quite the adventurous person, that is for sure. Do you, when you go on the races, is it a lot of uphill? Is it, I mean, what is the terrain like?
Yeah, the terrain has a lot of uphill and a lot of downhill. So endurance mountain biking, it's kind of like endurance trail running. So depending on the distance, I mean, my races will have anywhere from 4,000 to 20,000 feet of elevation gain, and that also includes descending.
Wow. What happens if you get a flat tire during a race?
You have to change it yourself, unless you're doing, there's a few races that have like a high level of support where someone can, give you a new wheel or something like that. But most of the time in these races that I do, you're in charge of fixing your own bike, you're in charge of fixing your own flat tires, you're in charge of planning out your own nutrition. So yeah, it's a lot of self-reliance, but that also builds confidence over time. So like if you feel like you can navigate or change a tire, like imagine what other things you think that you can do.
Wow. Well, what kind of things do you eat on the bike? I imagine it has to be things I'm pretty sure it's not a salad.
Yeah, the nutrition on the bike is pretty simple nutrition, like just gels and chews and things like that, because you need stuff that's digests very quickly. So I've tried eating things like dates, and it just doesn't digest fast enough. So you need fast digesting foods. For like slower pace rides, and I'm not riding super hard, I'll do things like fig bars, or I'll make my own type of cookies that usually consist of, oats. That they're usually flourless, but like oats and nut butter and dried fruit and things like that.
Wow, that is really something. Do you have any video of you racing anywhere?
You can find that stuff. You just Google my name, or if you go on YouTube, there's some race videos and things like that. But on my Instagram, which is just at Sonya Looney. I post riding videos of myself, and you can even see me mountain biking, 37 weeks pregnant right now. I just got back from a mountain bike ride. That's another thing, is like a lot of people think that you can't exercise while you're pregnant, or you have to lose your identity if you're an athlete. And of course you have to follow what your doctor says, but you can do a lot more than most people think, especially if you were doing it before you were pregnant. And with my first son, my first child, I was able to ride until the day before he was born. And I think that that is becoming more of the norm for active, fit people, realizing that you can do those things and you can stay healthy.
I'm looking at your Instagram, and except for the bump on your belly, nobody would know you were pregnant. That's amazing. Is that cute guy your husband?
Yeah.
Oh boy. I see your son. That is something. I love it. I'll post a link to your Instagram as well. When you win a race, do they give you something like a medal, some money?
It depends on the race. Yeah, some races you win money, some races you win trophies. Yeah, it just really depends. My favorite trophies are the ones that are handmade. Some of these events will they'll have like a local artist make pottery, or I did this race in Haiti, and mosaic art is a big part of the culture there. So the trophy was this really cool piece of mosaic art. So yeah, I like winning money, but I really like winning these custom pieces of art.
That is very cool. How do you find out about these races, and how often are they?
I find out about them just by hearing, word of mouth, or sometimes the races reach out to me, or I'll see somebody else do them, or I'll be interested in a country or a region and I'll just see if there's a race there using Google. And frequency, it depends. Sometimes these races are a little less brutal on the body than others, but it'll be different now that I have 2 little kids. But I was doing 5 or 6 7-day races per year, and then doing a bunch of 1-day races in between. Now it's going to look more like 2 or 3 7-day races, and then a fewer single-day races in between while my kids are still really young.
Wow, then what are you going to be when you grow up?
I don't know. Well, I've been really enjoying coaching. So I am a health and mental performance coach. So health coaching is a really interesting field because it's becoming more standardized. So there's something called the National Board Health and Wellness certification you can get. And you only can get that by doing an approved health coaching program at a university. So that's what I've been doing. And it's been super fun because health coaching isn't just about the food that you eat. It's about, well, if anyone's knows anything about lifestyle medicine, there's a bunch of different pillars that have to do with health, like your relationships, your mental state, your sleep, what you eat, your exercise. Health isn't just eating or exercise. There's so many different parts to it. So being able to help people with their goals in all of these different areas has been really awesome. But also being able to help people from the mental performance side of things, whether they're an executive or whether they're an athlete. A lot of the concepts are the same, and they're things that I've had to put into practice on the world stage as an athlete, but also in my life. So being able to have the training on how to be a good coach and the framework to do that has been something that I've really been enjoying.
Are most of the people that seek your coaching services already plant-based? Are they looking to?
No, most of them are not plant-based, and some of them come to the coaching because they want to change their diet to plant-based. A lot of them come to coaching just because they want to live a better life, and you go through this process to figure out what you want to work on. But people come to coaching for a number of reasons. Some people want a career change, some people want to sleep better, some people want to feel more positive in their lives. There's so many different ways and angles, but everything is so interrelated in our lives. From what we eat to sleeping to how we feel on a daily basis, it all affects and impacts each other.
Wow. Jerry's asking if you talk about the frame behind you.
The frame. Oh yeah, I actually got that in Nepal. So it's a mandala. It's just some artwork that I bought there. And it just the interconnectedness of everything, especially humans and animals, and we are all one, and we're all interconnected. And a lot of us think that we're just, on our own doing this individualist journey, but really we are all so connected in ways that we can't even imagine. And the picture next to it is actually that race in Nepal. That's a yak in the background that I didn't even realize I was riding by.
Yeah, that's funny. Do you coach the people in person or online, or does it depend whether or not there's a pandemic?
It's all online, so it's all via Zoom, just so I can have access to more people. Otherwise, I'd be limited to just my local community here.
Well, and you're in Canada.
I am, yeah. I live in Squamish, British Columbia. I used to live in Kelowna British Columbia, and we wanted to move to the coast because of like we're talking about health, we're talking about relationships, like being a part of a community that you feel like you're ingrained in, and being around people where you feel like you have close relationships, even in your neighborhood, like knowing your neighbors, feeling good about saying hi to your neighbors. That's so important in life. And actually, in Dan Buettner's book, he's done blue zones, but he's also done blue zones of happiness. And my husband and I realized like we weren't living in the right community for us. So we ended up moving, and it's been so much better. And just having more personal connections with people. It's so easy to have online connections now, like just texting or just on social media, but having in-person relationships is so important. And it's been really great to have more of that.
So do you live near Brenda Davis?
Brenda and I both lived in Kelowna, and we were really good friends. And then she ended up moving to Calgary before I moved, and then we moved to Squamish. But yeah, I visited her in Calgary, and it was pretty awesome. I met her because of my podcast. She was one of my first guests, and I invited her on the show. And this was like 5 years ago, and we became really good friends. And yeah, if anyone listening or watching is not familiar with Brenda Davis's work, like she is so brilliant. The information that she gives, she's a dietitian. The information that she gives is fantastic. And I actually highly recommend her it's called Kick Diabetes Cookbook. I don't have diabetes, but I eat out of that cookbook all the time because the meals are delicious and they're super healthy. So, and her book, Becoming Vegan, is like the ultimate vegan textbook. If you are interested, if you're plant curious, whether you're, a parent, whether you're an athlete, whether you're just somebody interested in learning a little bit more about health, it's such a great book.
Yeah, I love her. She's like the OG vegan dietitian.
Yeah, and actually, I love your cookbook. There's this bean dip in one of your cookbooks. Oh. It's something that we eat regularly around the house. It's like the holy moly bean dip.
From Unprocessed. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's coming out again next month, the 10th anniversary edition, this time.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's so cool. Thank you. Thank you. If you have to train like 12 hours a week for your sport, is it all on the bike, or do you have to do other things like stretching, maybe yoga, lifting weights?
Yeah, so the time that I said, the 10 to 15 hours, that's all on the bike. And then there'll be additional other things that I'll do, like primarily mobility training. Strength training I could do, and it probably would be beneficial for me to do that. But the mobility training is what I do the most of off the bike, because if you're doing yoga, but you don't have the mobility to get into the yoga pose, you're just going to incorrectly do a yoga pose. So focusing on the mobility, using bands and things like that, that's something that I do quite a bit, because if you're spending 10 to 15 hours a week on your bike, and then you're also at your computer and you're in this like hunched over position all the time, you need to be able to open up your body and work on these imbalances.
Yep, that is neat. Oh, wow. Do you ever take your son on your bike? Not while you're racing though, of course.
I have this little seat. It's called a shotgun, and it's like a little seat that goes on the top tube of the bike. And he has his own little handlebars where he holds on at the front. And I'm excited to take him on it now, but it was very scary. I took him on it just on the road in the summertime, but he was like, 15 months old, and I was so afraid that he would let go. And lots of people were doing it around me. I saw it, but I just was so uncomfortable. But now that he's older, I think he'll really enjoy getting on there. And I actually got an e-bike. So it's like a mountain bike, but if you pedal it, it gives you a little bit of an assist. So that's going to be awesome, because he weighs over 30 pounds. And when I start taking him on trails, having a little bit of assistance there, even with a big toddler on the top tube, is going to be awesome.
That'll be fun. I wonder what it's like. I mean, I wonder if your kids, because they're in your belly while you're doing all this writing, I wonder if that makes them like more prone to, not get motion sickness or something, because they're probably used to being moved a lot.
Yeah, I don't know. My son gets car sick pretty easily, so. But it's definitely healthier for the baby, and for the pregnancy overall, if you stay active during your pregnancy. And you certainly don't have to mountain bike through your pregnancy to stay healthy. But I think the guideline is 150 minutes per week of, I can't remember if it's vigorous or moderate. I'm doing a lot more than that, but that's like the general recommendation, and it makes everything better. So yeah, it makes you feel better too.
Have you ever written about or counseled people about healthy vegan pregnancies?
I have, yeah. I actually wrote a guide on my website. I think I just called it Everything You Need to Know About Vegan Pregnancy. And it takes all the research and data that I read from all of these different books, and I put it into one guide for people, because people were wanting to know. And then it gives people, if they want to buy books and they want to do additional research on their own, then they can do that.
Wow, that is fantastic. Well, you're quite an inspiration.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Are you on they used to have a vegan fitness magazine. I don't know if they still have it.
I don't know.
I thought it was called Vegan Health and Fitness. Brenda Carey. No?
I don't know. I haven't heard of it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's there anymore, but I'm wondering if you ever featured in any magazines like that.
Not for being vegan. I've been featured in magazines for being, a professional mountain biker. Um, but yeah, not, or just like I've written tons of articles about basically health and mental wellness. But yeah, I haven't been in the vegan one.
But when they like interview you for like racing magazines, you do kind of slip in that you're vegan, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Have you written or will you write a book?
I've been working on one for a while. I have several ideas, but with all the different things that I'm doing right now, I keep starting and stopping. And I think when I don't have two little toddlers, then that's going to be the right time. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about that because I have so many different ideas that I want to write about.
Do you know what your next baby's going to be?
It's a girl.
Oh,
yes, we get one of each.
Okay, that's perfect. I love it. I love it. Do you have a name picked out?
No, not yet.
Do you have a dog? He looks very cute.
Yeah, his name is Baxter. He's harder than the toddler. Having a toddler, he's a very great. Terriers are very stubborn dogs. If anyone who has a terrier,
their way or the highway, they're the boss applesauce.
They're so stubborn, and he is extremely high energy, and he gets very excited very easily. So yeah, he can be a bit of a challenge. But people just absolutely love it when they see him out walking. They're just like, "Oh, he's the cutest dog ever."
How old is he?
I'm like, wait till you get to know him. He is 2.5.
Wow. I love the name Baxter. And I recently had Dr. Baxter Montgomery on the show.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a very common name. That's, now I know two Baxters, and I asked him how he got the name. And it was such a funny story because his mother wanted to name him something else. And when he was born, I guess the mother called the father. I guess maybe the father was at work saying, okay, we had a boy and I'd like to name him such and such. And the father said, no, I want to name him Baxter. And the mother said, no, I want to name him such and such. And the father said, either name him Baxter or don't bring him home.
Wow.
I thought that was a really funny story. But anyway, that's how I remember the name. Well, wow, you were great. And thank you so much for being in the bundle. Is there anybody else's book or course in the bundle that has caught your eye that you're going to check out?
Yeah, Ramsey's Bravo.
Yeah, it's a course. It's a foundational course. I'm so glad you had a chance to look at it. Thank you so much for being in it. And I hope it's not another 4 years before we connect again.
Yeah, thanks everybody for watching. And yeah, good luck on everybody's health journey.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Sonya. And thanks all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Please come back in an hour and 15 minutes when we have another superstar from the Ultimate Weight Loss Bundle, Robbie Barbero from Mastering Diabetes.